So, when I was 12 years old, I had a realization that allowed me to feel rewarded for doing work. It started when an idea formed in my head. I had a future goal and I connected it with what I could do in the present to reach it. But this wouldn't come without uncertainty or stress. There were moments where I would question whether I wanted to take these steps or whether these steps would even reward me in the future. And I would have to take a leap of faith into this void of uncertainty, and it was uncomfortable for a long time. But as I practiced this every day, there was a proportional reward for the amount of stress. I was moving towards a target, and I had a way of measuring the progress. And by living this progress despite the uncertainty and all the stress, it put me in a state of flow in life, and every day connected effortlessly as I was reaching these goals. Unfortunately, I did have two main events that took me off that path, and whilst both of these had elements of things that were beyond my control and that I couldn't change, one of them undoubtedly had elements within my control which I consciously chose to ignore and not continue on the path. So, to be more specific, when I was 12 years old, one day in class I was distracted, looking outside the window, and thinking after an Easter holiday I had in England, I thought, I'm so glad that my father can afford these holidays. I wish I could too, but I'm 12 years old and I'm in school. I then realised that if I wanted to afford nicer holidays, I would need to earn more money than average, and for that I would need a job that pays better, and for a job that pays better I would need a higher level of education. I can't afford holidays right now, I can't earn money right now, but I can study. And that's the best step that I can take to afford the holidays that I want. I now had a plan of action, the path I needed to walk, and the steps I needed to take to reach a future goal. Essentially, I started becoming a good student, and every day I prioritized getting the best results I could. The act of studying itself became the most rewarding action, and I did this for a bit over 2 years, between the ages of 12 and 14, almost 15, all of which I was in a state of flow. In the beginning, it was very difficult. I went from not caring much about my results and putting in almost no effort to suddenly trusting a mental instinct. I didn't have any guarantees that this was going to work out. All I had was my perception of the world at the time, which was mostly influenced by the life I was living, my parents, my teachers, and all the expectations that society was instilling upon me. I remember at the beginning constantly questioning whether this was the right path, and whenever I felt that stress, I simply told myself that even if I feel uncomfortable now, I should simply remind myself of the future goal and then take the best step I can to reach it. I'm going to give a little neuroscience interlude in the middle of this story. So at that time, I knew what to do despite the uncertainty, and I believed that that was my prefrontal cortex working. I'm not a neuroscientist, so take what I'm about to say with a pinch of salt. Our brains have two main reward systems, one in the prefrontal cortex in the front of the brain, and another in the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is in one of the older parts of the brain. This older part has a more simple reward circuitry. It rewards you for eating sugars and high-calorie food. It rewards you for sex, or porn and masturbation, as that's related. It rewards you for short-term instant gratification. On the other hand, the prefrontal cortex is a newer part of the brain, only having been developed recently with the cognitive revolution that Homo sapiens have experienced. And it can give us rewards, but only when we're taking steps towards future goals, and also only if we're not wasting all our dopamine on short-term instant gratification in the simple reward circuitry. So, in other words, the prefrontal cortex is capable of abstracting a future goal and rewarding you for taking the steps towards it, but only if your body's chemical soup of hormones allows it. If you give in to the short-term instant gratification system of our more primal parts of the brain, you will not feel the state of flow that the prefrontal cortex can offer. So back to the story. In the end, when I was 14, it was also difficult. My teachers didn't recognize or reward me when I was performing my best, when I had the best results when I was 13. Only when I started falling a bit and getting worse results did my teachers decide, for some reason, to increase my results in about 4 subjects. They did this with the intention of motivating me to work harder and to maintain that higher standard, but the timing was wrong. At the time when my results were higher from my own effort, it wasn't recognized, and then when they saw that my results were lowering, they artificially increased my results, hoping it would motivate me to work harder. I don't have any memories of this time in my life. I burnt myself out from studying too hard. I tried to maintain results that I couldn't. Not even a few months after I finished that school year, I had already forgotten where I used to sit in that classroom. I forgot what happened in the classroom. I forgot what I did with my friends during the breaks. I already forgot all of that because I was so focused on just studying and trying to get results which I couldn't maintain. I wasn't rewarded for my effort and it felt bad, so I consciously made a decision to try to maintain 80% of the results for just 20% of the effort. At the same time, I also hit puberty when I was 15. My voice broke, new hormones coursing through my body and my brain, and new thoughts are being triggered by this new chemical soup of hormones that I've got. I became curious about sexuality and started exploring porn. I already made a video about that, but the main point being that I was now receiving reward hormones through short-term instant gratification and not through advancing towards a goal. This plus playing video games, eating sugar, watching YouTube, all allowed me to feel rewarded whilst not making an effort. Plus I could avoid the stress of uncertainty of my personal happiness, as I now had ways of guaranteeing pleasure in my life, although it came at the cost of not having a goal anymore. And for 8 years since, I've just been building addictions and I've not been in a state of flow. As you can tell, I've given this a lot of thought and over a really long period of time. I've always been acknowledging this issue in the back of my head ever since I was 15 years old, and whenever I started to feel that stress, instead of learning how to tolerate it and still take the steps towards moving towards a goal, I consciously chose short-term instant gratification again and again, knowing that it would be a slippery slope and that it would become more difficult to get back on track. I've now decided to stop thinking about improving my life and to actually take the steps to do so. I've written and signed a contract with my friends as witnesses and added a financial penalty. And if I fail to comply, I will have to pay them. This is the beginning of my journey to developing my stress tolerance once again, and I'll update you on video 52.